Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode 335 at scavengerlife.com.
Okay, I want everyone to be quiet, and I want to talk about something.
Okay.
Okay, so we run a business. You know, eBay's fun.
Right.
Lots of laughs, but ultimately it's a business, and this is for real. You know?
Yeah.
Like, we make a living doing this.
Right.
And it's not a game.
I'm not joking around.
We are pretty good about, getting new ideas or hearing things and kind of evolving very quickly to improve our business.
Yes.
Or seeing signals in what sells or what doesn't sell and changing things so we keep up.
Right.
But at the same time, sometimes we're really slow. And I want to talk about one of the things that I think we've been slow at trying to change. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. All right. So I've laid that groundwork. A couple of years ago, we were like, let's boost our inventory. And we did that.
Right.
I mean, relatively quickly. We went from, like 2,000 items, and now we have like 6,000 items in our store.
Yeah.
And these are mainly, items that sell between, unfortunately, sometimes $10 to, like $40. Like, that's kind of the average range. Like, if I look at our weekly sales, that's kind of like our sales fall in that average. And, we've found like it's pretty easy to go out and scavenge, spend easily under $100, oftentimes it's $50, and come home with a carload of stuff.
Yeah.
Bags of stuff. And we can just do that again and again and again. And it's worked for us great. But even a couple of years ago, if you go back in our podcast, we've talked about how do we get more money per item. That for us is the bottleneck. We've listed a whole lot. We hired somebody that helped us get through all of our death piles. Like that is one strategy, is just like to get bigger. But I think, for us, I think we feel like the real key is how to make more money per item. And we talk about it, and we kind of try. Like, I think, every week we'll sell 2 or 3 or 4 things for, between $100 and $200. Like, that's pretty normal.
Like, we have enough things that in our store for that price that it...
Yeah, but I mean, so if we make $300 or $400, like, that's not really that much.
Right.
It's money. It's not bad, but, it's not like a game changer. And those items are just the things that kind of hide in our bags of stuff. Like, we're just grabbing items that we think are going to sell for $30, and we just happen to grab something that's going to sell for $100. It's just kind of, we aren't like specifically trying to find these $100 items. And then every so often, even more of a rare occurrence, we sell something for like $300 to $500.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be once every 3 months.
Yeah, that's not even once a month.
Once every 6 months. I mean, that's a really rare thing. And normally it's like something we know is worth a lot, but it takes a long time to sell. I mean, I think in the 8 years we've been doing this, I think we might have sold 2 things for over $1,000. I mean,
I think our highest prices, the 5 or 6 things we've sold have been in that price range. Like, it's never.
It's like 1,000 between like 1,500 or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think the highest thing we ever sold was like $1,800, which was
a piece of furniture,
fabric.
Fabric. That's right. Yeah.
So
I mean,
a piece of furniture was
so it's incredibly rare.
Yeah, so that's like super rare price for us.
So the question is it possible to build a business on eBay where you're only selling stuff for $100 or more, and where if you're selling 3 or 4 things a month for $1,000,
right?
And I'm not really asking people to like give me the answers.
Say yes or no.
Yeah, I'm more kind of just speaking out loud and really talking to you because you're my partner, and
right.
And we come up with these strategies to do things. Because really, I mean, imagine that. I mean, if we could have a business where we're selling 20 or 30 things a month, but we're making an average of $500 on each thing.
Right.
That would be huge.
You're like...
And I don't know of any eBay business that does that on a consistent basis, like regularly selling those prices. And at the same time, not paying like $400 for an item to sell it for $600. You know, like
Yeah.
I still want the same kind of it's profit margins that we have now. Like like pay like $50 for an item that sells for 500.
Yeah.
Like that's a kind of profit margin I'm looking for.
Right.
The only is when I look out in the world, the only business I can think that might do that, and I don't know if it's true, are like those antique stores.
Yeah.
Like when you walk by, and it's not a junk store because it's super nice.
Right.
But they have all these little old antiques and
Yeah.
doodads and with high
prices.
Price
And
on
furniture, too. Like,
Right.
Vintage furniture, because those are the markups.
And they're often in the nicer parts of town.
Or, they're in a city.
And my question is, I wonder, do they, on a regular basis sell stuff for
Right.
thousands of dollars?
Yeah.
I mean, they must, you know. But then,
That's the question.
they've like built this clientele, I guess. And I don't know, can you do that on eBay where you can find, attract those people? I guess it would be designers.
Yeah.
People with like super fancy houses.
Right.
Like, do they shop for
On eBay.
stuff on eBay?
Well, it's almost like the people who shop for them shop
Yeah.
on eBay.
So let me feed some more info into here, some more facts. So like this week, we talked about we want to be spending more money to get stuff. So we went to an auction.
Yeah.
It's this week, and we spent about $900, which isn't uncommon for us. We've done that before, but we actually didn't, drive away with our truck. Like, normally we drive away, and the back of the truck is like Beverly Hillbillies, just boxes, and I'm strapping stuff down.
Like
with
a
a tarp on
mountain.
it. And there's stuff coming out from behind your seat, and there's something in
my
your
lap.
This was $900, and it was very, like, it was just one, it was maybe
One layer of
8,
boxes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we looked like normal.
Yeah, it was just like, here it is.
And I remember when we went to go cash out, we were both kind of surprised. We're like, whoa.
Well, because, this is what gets you at auctions, as everybody knows. You're keeping a tally in your head, or you're writing it down, which is good. And we were like, well, how much did we spend? And you're like, about $600.
Right.
Well, add in your buyer's premium and your sales tax, and it's $900.
Right. And the sales tax, I know we could get that ID where we don't have to pay sales
like
tax
reseller's tax.
on the front end, but yeah, it's 18%. So this was like the first time I think I was really being like, I'm just going to try and get good quality stuff.
Good tables, because we were doing table lots.
Yeah, I didn't quite, we didn't get into the, like, on the second part of the auction where it's like individual items, where it's like fancy pieces of artwork.
And furniture.
Where like one thing sells for $500.
Right.
I was going after tables of stuff where I was trying to look and be like, can we sell multiple items here for over $100?
Can we sell like one item and pay for the table?
Right.
You know what I mean?
And every item could sell for $100. Is that possible?
Right.
So, and that's what we did. And so now we're in the process of trying to photograph and put these up and see,
And I find that usually pays off. Like, those things sell faster and they sell for more money.
Well, see, I don't know if that's true. I mean, we're going to see, because normally we'll go to an auction and we'll buy a table and there'll be one or two of these items that are kind of higher end.
Yeah.
And the rest are like $30 items.
Yeah, that's true.
This is the first time where we have like multiple things that could sell. But I mean,
Right.
but again, I just want to, I think anyone that has been to auctions probably knows what kind of stuff I'm talking about. It's like, some of it's antique, some of it's vintage. It's just like weird doodads.
It's random. It's so random.
It's like designer stuff. It's like stuff that buy housewares,
Yeah.
but like really well made out
Like
of
the best, yeah.
a metal and wood, like, a handmade knife from Germany with like an antler bone.
No, it wasn't
for
even
the
an antler.
handle.
It was a hoof.
A hoof.
With fur on it.
Right.
You're like, with a handmade leather scabbard. You're just like, that's a gorgeous piece.
And
you know?
a stein, like a silver-plated stein with like etching and writing on it from like the 1800s. It's just like weird stuff like that. And I'm like, how quickly is this going to sell?
But it is worth money. And and you're just like, and you paid a lot. Like, you paid a lot for one table. Do you want to say how much you paid?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so like, I think the highest priced table I paid was $250.
Right, which is high for us.
For like a small coffee table of stuff with maybe like 25 items on it.
But like you said, those items were like that Stein.
And I
like
went head to head with one of the regulars there.
One of the regulars who,
and she was like, she was like, oh my god.
Well, what's funny is she's like you in that situation. She just puts her hand up, where she's like, nobody's getting this table, and you were like, I'm putting my hand up. Like I didn't even see it happen, but I could hear it, and I was like, I know what's happening right now.
Well, and so a quick side note on this. So it was interesting at this auction. This was the first time that you kind of, in a way, checked out.
I did
little
check
bit.
out, yeah, absolutely.
Where from the get-go, you kind of were like, I just want to pack, and I don't want to. How come? Like,
yeah, I the moment we started, where you were like, don't feel like I'm taking over. Like, feel like you can bid on stuff, and in my head, I was like, nope, I do not want to, because I'm
You're so good at it.
That's not true. That's not true at all. I don't like to spend a lot of money.
Right.
It paralyzes me.
Right.
Like, I would never spend $250 on that table. No. And I wouldn't let you do it either if I were there.
That's true.
So I was like, look, these tables that you were buying, it's a lot of porcelain and delicate stuff. And I was like, plus, I also noticed this time, there are people who are looking through your tables after it's been bid on. And that freaks me out.
That's
I'm like,
true.
Don't look at my stuff. Don't touch my stuff. Don't look at my stuff.
Right. So, So, actually, as long as you were cool about not being a part of the bidding, that was actually a good strategy where I could be buying tables and then you immediately go and start packing stuff up.
Honestly, you're
taping it up.
You're better at feeling okay with like spending money, because I can't do. I physically cannot do it. I'm like, I can't.
Well, we'll definitely see
if it pays off.
If it pays off,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what we're talking about.
Well, there
here.
was one item that we found that we're hoping will pay for the entire payout.
Well, I mean, so, we bought one table, and there's this one thing that no one is, it's like the biggest thing on there.
And no one's looking at it.
It's like this huge, like 4 foot long, it's Santa Claus in a canoe.
Yeah.
And it just looks really kind of cheesy.
It looks cheesy, and it looks like someone just left it in their garage, kind of.
And you were actually thinking about just leaving it behind.
I was almost going to leave it. But then I looked at it closer, and I was like, this is handmade, and the Santa itself is porcelain. So I'm like, this is...
Yeah, it's like it's actually made out of, like, a leather and
fur.
Birchwood and rabbit fur. And didn't you say you grew up around, like, craft shows?
Yeah, I went to craft shows
and that's
growing up.
like craft show central, right?
Yeah,
there,
like that type of handmade item. You're like, that's an expensive item, and we should look it up.
And so we go home, and we actually start to search on it, and it's a guy named...
Lynn Haney.
Lynn Haney. And this is the kind of stuff, like, I don't know anything about this
stuff. I've never
stuff.
seen anything.
But now I'm like a Santa Claus expert. This guy in Lubbock, Texas, he actually just quit doing this after 30 years.
Which is good, because that means his stuff is limited.
Every year he would handcraft these Santa Clauses in different, like, it looked like Gandalf to me. But,
yeah. You called it, you were like, they look like wizards. I'm like, that's what Santa Claus looks like.
It's like Santa Claus in a canoe, Santa Claus, hiking, Santa Claus, whatever,
just
doing
all
different kind of things. But these things sell for, I think we could easily sell it for $300. But we put $1,200 on it
because I couldn't find any that looked like that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's one example, and so I think we have a good. So this is the week we're going to start putting that stuff up and start putting these high prices on it, and like how quickly will stuff like this sell? Like we always tell people, you got to put 500 items to start to make a certain amount of income, and that's it, items that sell for an average of $30. Mm-hmm. Well, what happens if we put up 500 items that are an average of, $300?
Right.
Will we start to sell like a $300 item every single day?
Right.
That would be amazing,
every week.
Right. And, but again, the difference is this isn't like we're going out and selling, and having up like, a golf shirt that's like, a practical item that people are always trying to find. I mean, we're selling a 4-foot Santa Claus in a canoe, like,
like how many people are looking for that?
Like,
and the great thing is it's almost Christmas, so I'm praying that someone's like, I must have that. It does have make an offer on it. So.
Yeah. So I guess that's, those are it's questions that I guess I am asking people to see if they have any kind of real info on. And that is, how big is the market for $500 plus housewares, decorations, collectibles,
Right.
Like how big is that?
Right.
Its market. And does anyone, can anyone give me a link to an eBay store that I can check out where I look at their sold items and every week they sell at least 10 things over $300?
Yeah.
I would love to just see, is that a real possibility?
Yeah.
Because, I could see us doing that, just really start going out, being willing to spend $1,000 a week, but we're selling, at least one item for $300. It would really cut down on having to churn out the listings,
right? Right. That's always the dream of like, if you get higher priced items, it's less items you have to put up and photograph and list and store.
And the good thing is when you start getting up into the, like at an auction, when you start bidding on that kind of stuff, there are only a handful of people there who are interested in that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like most people are there to get the huge tables for $30.
Right. Which is like us,
our bread and butter.
Exactly.
But, there's much less competition because, number one, people just don't want to spend that kind of money. And also, they don't trust themselves
it's riskier
to know how to sell that stuff,
Yeah, it's riskier, for sure.
Okay. So everyone can start talking again.
Okay, everyone.
Okay, let's talk about a couple of random things. Just some housekeeping stuff. We have a forum.
Yes.
At scavengerlife.com, and people will try to join its forum.
I have to approve every single person
because
that joins.
Anyone that knows the internet, there's just a lot of spam, and if we don't have this filter on there, its process, we will just get so many spammers, these automatic spammers, and then they'll start flooding the forum with like
junk,
pharmaceutical posts, and all this kind of junk. And trust me, we have those automatic spammers trying to join every day. So sometimes someone tries to join and their email, it seems spammy. Like it's Steve151515 at yahoo.com. That seems like a pretty spammy email.
Because the spammers make emails like that.
And so we deny those. And so what we ask is, if we accidentally deny you, just write us.
Yeah.
And we will approve you.
Yeah, that makes it so easy.
We just sometimes get people who write us and they're really offended, as if we've like purposely denied them access to our forum, and they're like, "Why can't I?
Right.
I have valuable information to." And I agree, you have valuable info. You just have to let us know. I just want to let people know that that's how it works.
Yeah, I'm only denying people because there's 25 spammers and it all looks the same to me. If it's like, so-and-so thrift at AOL.com, I'm like, okay, that's probably a person.
Honestly, the better way is if there was some kind of plugin where someone could ask for permission to join and then leave a message.
Like a human message.
But for some reason,
I just cannot find one.
Been able to find one. So if anyone's a WordPress
If you're a WordPress nerd, I would love to know if there's a better plugin that.
But I will say, I feel like I don't think I remember the last time a spam its message has gotten into our forum, and it really keeps the noise down. I feel like we have a very good, strong forum that doesn't have a lot of noise.
Yeah, so if you're denied...
Strong signal
to noise ratio, high signal. If you get denied, immediately respond to that email, because just say, hey, I'm a real person, please approve me. And I read those all day long, and I just approve you.
So before we talk about our eBay, kind of our real, what happened over the week, I do have a question. And this is not a quirky question. It's not supposed to be a funny question. It's a serious question that any scavenger should have to answer. We like to be scavengers. We like to be efficient. We don't like to waste things. We like to save its money. And one way is with soap. We mainly just use like hotel soap that we buy in big bags that we find at
the
thrift stores, which is awesome.
Yeah.
It's great soap.
Yeah.
Different smells, and it's wonderful. So one thing I do, though, is like, at the end when you have like slivers of soap, I like to then mash them into the new soaps. And sometimes I'll even take a bunch of old soaps and mash it into like a soap sculpture.
Sculpture in air quotes.
I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean,
like
it's just soap. And you hate that. And I want to know why.
Okay.
It's the most efficient thing that you can do.
It's partially efficient because I'll tell you my alternative. So it's okay if it's like 2 slivers and you mush those together.
Okay.
Number 1, a lot of times when you're washing your hands, those slivers fall apart because the water gets in between them.
But the thing is, if you don't give them enough time to dry, so it takes about 2 days for them to dry. So if I am trying to put them together and then you wash your hands,
so it's 2 days that I can't use the soap.
Well,
okay,
you have to.
Caught you on that one. Okay, second thing is, if it's 2 slivers mushed together, that's not bad. But there was this like gross amalgamation of soaps that were like,
it's a Franken soap.
Yeah, but it wasn't even like a couple slivers
It's
mushed
like
together.
a brutalist sculpture.
It literally looks like that. It looks like a soap poo is what it looks like. So I don't want to wash my hands with that.
But real quick, why is it gross? Because it's just soap. It's not like it's dirty. It's soap.
That's because it's the feeling and the texture in your hands that feels gross. Now, what I do with the soap slivers is this, and you already know this. Once it gets down to the sliver, and I'm like, I can barely use this, I put it in, I have like a old vintage casserole dish underneath one of our bathroom sinks. And I stick it in there and I let it dry for like months. It becomes like almost a powder where you can break it apart.
It's like petrified.
Yeah, sort of.
It's like a fossil, a soap fossil.
So when that thing piles up, I grind it down.
In our Vitamix.
And I make powdered soap out of it. And then I add borax and baking soda and like washing soda. You know, the stuff you can buy that stuff at Walmart in a big bin. And I make detergent out of it.
Right.
So it becomes detergent for washing clothes.
Okay.
That soap gets used. I never throw that away.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm going to use this for something else. I don't need to like use Franken soaps for my hands because we have so much of that soap. We find it all the time. We have a huge basket of it.
Like big bags of hotel soap.
Because the hotel changes, what they use
or
and give it away.
Someone collected hotel soaps. They died
Right.
and their kids, donate it and soap doesn't go bad.
Yeah, no,
so
it's usable.
Well,
So
I will
that's
say,
my thing.
okay.
I'd rather do that than wash my hands with.
I may just have to keep my Franken soap for, my areas where I wash my hands because I don't mind it.
That's what needs to happen.
I will say there was a guy on Kickstarter a couple of years ago that was raising money for a soap that had like a divot indented in it, like it was made. So that way when it became a sliver, you could take that sliver of soap and it would fit right inside of the new bar of soap.
Right.
It was really genius. And I donated to it and he got the money he wanted. He made them and I got like 3 or 4 bars.
Yeah.
The problem is that then the retail price of these were just way too high.
They're too expensive.
I mean, for, it's a very smart, I wish I could do it, but it's like, $2 or $3 for a bar of soap, and that's crazy.
You're like, that's why I use these hotel soaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're free, basically.
Yeah, so I wish that was more of a thing. Like, I wish just...
It was,
everyone, like, big manufacturers would do that, because it's so smart. Because, it freaks me out. Do people take those slivers of soap and just throw them away?
I have no idea.
Like, that's the craziest thing to
because
me.
soap is actually expensive. I mean, that's why we're like, let's just get these hotel soaps and, because you go to the store and you're like, how much is this bar of soap?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Okay, well, we've talked about enough about soap, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay, eBay for this week. We have a couple things that we learned and did. So number one is something happened with SmartPost.
Yeah, so I had a package about a month ago going to someone in California, and they were like, I didn't get this, but she never told me she had a forwarding address. She had moved. It got forwarded to her. I watched the tracking the whole time. The case got closed.
And it was out on a FedEx SmartPost.
SmartPost, right? So, it gets forwarded to her through the post office. And the thing about SmartPost that I did not realize until this moment was there's a little strip of text that says address service requested. And what that means is, hey, post office, please tell me this person's new address if they've moved. Now that's great for people who have subscriptions.
Yeah, and you're trying to update your spreadsheet.
Mailing list, and you're a huge magazine company and whatever. I don't care that person moved, because it's their responsibility through eBay to tell me if they've changed their address or have a forwarding address. The issue was my post office gave me a photocopy of her new address and charged me 58 cents to send that to me.
And you actually had to give 58 cents to...
in a little envelope to my post office.
So
which I was happy to do.
Yeah, right.
Because I was like, that's fine. But at first I was like, why are they charging me? This doesn't make any sense. But then I Googled it, the form number, and I looked at that little tiny piece of text that says address service requested. So now what I'm doing on SmartPost is I'm actually blacking that out with a marker just in case, because I'm like, I don't really need this. I'm not a magazine subscription service. I'm sending this person something once, probably. So yeah. That's just something to look out for if you're using SmartPost and you're like,
it's the first time it ever happened to us, but it's an interesting little weird thing. So yeah, I think just to mark it out would avoid.
I just take a Sharpie and I'm like, burp. So that's something to look out for.
Something else we learned what a tomato knife is.
You know what's funny is
tomato knife.
So a tomato knife, we kept thinking it was a knife for a fish because it looks like it has a fish head on the end. It's got these two prongs on the end, and sometimes it even has a little circle like an eye. And forever I've been meaning to look that up. What is this knife that looks like a fish head? And someone bought one from us, and we were like, we have to look that up because we're not naming it the right thing.
And it's one of those things where it's sold almost right away, the same day.
But it was a cheap. It wasn't a high end Wusthof. It was just a vintage.
Yeah, it wasn't something that we undersold, but it was just something where it's just interesting to learn these kind of things. Yeah. So it looks like a steak knife. But at the end, instead of it being a sharp point, it's two prongs.
Yeah.
So that way, when you slice a tomato, you instead of having to pick it up and it falling apart, you can just stab it and I guess do something with it.
Yeah, it's just the key is it's a specialty knife that people are looking for. So if you name it correctly, your buyers are going to find it.
And we now know the brands of tomato knives that people are trying to find. If you find a tomato knife that's a case knife, CASE, they can sell, an individual knife can sell for $150 or more.
It's what?
And I get excited about this because that's now, I'm one of those guys that goes to, at any thrift store, they have a bin of just random silverware and knives. I'm the one that's going through those, and that's the kind of knife that would slip through, I bet. So
sometimes
that's my fun goal.
Sometimes I'll be at one end of a thrift store or wherever, and I'll just hear shuffling through the flatware. It's so loud, and I'm like, I know that's Jay because no one else is doing.
Because if you get a good, and we sell them on a regular basis.
Yeah.
A knife that's quality will sell for easily $30.
Well, and we're always looking for that stuff for our rentals and for our house. So we're always a good knife is a great thing to have.
And most of the people who I'm competing against, they're actually going through it trying to find a silver knife.
Actual silver.
They'll have, it's a little magnifying glass or eye loop or whatever, and they're going through and they're looking at more all the silver plated stuff, trying to find the sterling. And I'm just I don't care about that. I'm looking for sharp quality.
I want a tomato knife.
Knives, yeah.
Oh, for sure, yep.
And then we hit what do you call it? Like a highlight,
A milestone.
a benchmark, a milestone.
Oh, you're right. I just noticed that when you said it.
We have reached 9,000 feedback.
Yes.
And for some people, you're like, that really isn't a whole lot, because if there are plenty of sellers that have 15,000, 10,000. I mean, people have like 15, 20, a million. But, we're a relatively small outfit. And we all know it's like a third of people actually do feedback.
Oh, I want to say it's even less than that now.
I mean, so it takes us about a year, I'd say, on average, to get 1,000 feedback.
Yeah.
So
it takes a long time.
So, we have 9,000 feedback. We've been doing this since 2008, 10-ish years. I mean, so it's about 1,000 every year. And we were definitely much smaller in the early years. So we sell between 200 and 300 items a month. So that's, up to 2,000 items every a year, but we only get 1,000 feedback. So, it's about a third to a half.
And it takes
300 would actually be 3,600. So
So it's about a third.
And, I mean, in these days, honestly, with eBay, it doesn't matter.
We still sell stuff.
I mean, that's like one of those kind of like old parts of eBay that I guess had been really important. Like, what kind of star do you have? Do you have the purple star or the blue?
It's so funny.
Blue shining star.
We have a green star.
We have the green star.
But this is so silly. Yeah.
But I guess if you're a seller on eBay, you're always trying to find those little things that tell you if you're doing good or not.
Exactly.
Am I doing good, Daddy?
Yeah. Daddy eBay. Yeah.
So
weirdo.
Like, there's one person I follow on eBay where I remember he went from, like, he started to sell big time on eBay a couple of years ago, and he sells like a lot of stuff. He went from like 5,000, they're up to like 15,000 items now.
Oh, it's just many.
Because he sells like probably 5 times as much as we do.
Now there is a way to send people feedback reminders, but there's several of us who've kind of talked about it on the forum where we're like, I kind of don't want to remind people to leave feedback because I don't want them to be like, it was okay, neutral.
Right.
You're like, I want to just...
Or stir the pot. Yeah.
If they feel like they had a positive experience and they're like, this was great, positive feedback, great.
Well, I mean, just kind of...
Wrap it up.
Wrap this up. It seems like when a new people start to sell and they will write us like, how do I get feedback? Like, people aren't giving me feedback. And I know as new...
you want that feedback.
Someone new, I can understand why you don't want to have like 5 of feedback, because I guess there might be people who are buying who are like, do I trust this person? I honestly don't think people care. I don't think a lot of people even know that they're buying from like an individual person. I think they just think they're buying from eBay,
Yeah, sometimes.
So, we always tell people it does not matter. Just don't even worry about it.
Selling, don't look at it.
Yeah. So that's...
Exactly.
That's it. Okay, let's talk about our numbers for this week. It was a pretty good week. It was a good week. Average.
It felt average. There were some days where it felt very slow.
Right.
But yesterday picked up, so like you say, you average it at the end of the week.
And I feel like every holiday, every fourth quarter, this happens where I feel like, aren't we supposed to be selling like tons and tons of stuff? And I feel like, why are we even having a slow day when everyone's talking about how crazy the holidays get? And again, I think it's just our store. Like, we don't have like super holiday items. Like, it's not specifically holiday stuff.
It's
so
just
you
have a Santa.
Like my thing last week, it was just holidays are just another day, and we're making a lot. It's making the money it's we need, but it just felt like it's one of those weeks, like we weren't making 10 times as much. Right. And we made exactly a bit over $1,700 in our main store, which is kind of the kind of week we would have in the summertime. Decent.
Right.
Sold 61 items. So we sold a lot of items.
Yeah.
Almost 10 items a day.
Yeah.
But we were just selling a lot of, like, the highest item if we sold was $70.
It's just like...
And, and that's, I mean, again, going to the topic we have of, it's this week, like, hey, it's a living,
Right.
It's great. It buys us our time. Like, it's not about complaining.
Yeah.
But if we want to challenge ourselves, have more fun, evolve, have it's more time, that highest price sold, like, I want to see every single week. I would love like a $500
item,
$1,000 sale.
Yeah. Look, I know somebody's store that is kind of like that, and that's Stephen Schultz.
That's true.
I forgot. Yeah. But he is willing to refurbish and know and have the knowledge of vintage electronics. Yeah. And that is a serious business.
Yeah, I mean, anyone that knows our podcast, Steve is the one who we post his what sold video. A video every Wednesday. If you're brand new,
you should look at that.
Go to our blog, scavengerlife.com, and every Wednesday you can see a video where he shows you the kind of stuff he sells. And yeah, he is actually one of those people that makes often as much as we do or more and sells many fewer items because he almost every week has like $1,000 sale because he finds old stereo stuff and fixes it up and sells it and ships it. I mean,
all that stuff.
Like he
takes returns.
Like if I saw one of those things, I wouldn't even buy it because I wouldn't, number one, it was that valuable. Right. And I wouldn't, and it would just be like a wall. I'm like, I don't want to deal, I don't know how to deal with this,
Yeah. It's just a different.
But he was willing to learn.
Exactly. Yep.
And then on store number 2, our Autopilot store.
Not bad.
We sold about $260 of stuff.
13 items.
Yep.
That's pretty good. That's great.
We sold a $50 a mannequin.
I sold my mannequin because
a dress form.
Yeah, dress form. I sold it. I think I bought it for like 40 at an auction.
Because it's super cool. It's like real vintagey.
It just would not sell though. It's like people did not want to pay for it. And finally someone gave me a $50 offer. And I was like, yes.
It's been like in the corner of our office for
a year.
Years.
No, well, I used years. I used it for dresses, and then I was like, number one, I hate selling dresses, so I stopped buying them. Number 2, any dress gets their picture taken on the floor now.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Or hanging up on a hanger on a wall.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about things we sold.
Yes.
All right, what did we sell? Is there anything we sold that was exciting? And I looked through our list. Really? I mean, again,
no.
Like nothing exciting. I would say more than half of the stuff is stuff where I'm like, I can't believe that sold. Or I forgot we even had that.
Right.
Or that's the stuff that was on the table that I didn't want, but it was part of the table and we being efficient, it's like the Frankensoaps of tables at an auction and we sell them. And it's like, a good solid $12 or $21,
Right.
Some of it sells for a bit more. And that was all what we sold during the week. Just, a vintage, a whisk or...
Oh, like a baking sheet? I'm like, why are we even selling that?
Like an old pencil sharpener,
Look, old markers. We sold a lot of 12 old markers for $50, so don't discount that.
An old flashlight. Some books,
some artwork.
Anyway, but that's real.
It. That's making.
This was a good scavenger week, just where we made a living on stuff that people really thought were trash. Now let's talk about the scavenge of the week. So we talked about that a Santa Claus in a boat. And that's a huge, it was a surprise to us. We have it up for $1,200. We could easily sell it for $300, I think, today. But we're going to see if we can squeeze out some more.
Well, honestly, I wanted to pay for our entire auction day with that one item that we overlooked. That's what I'm hoping. And, we'll see if it happens.
And weekly sales like that would be awesome. And that is a versus...
Something else.
Then I find, and this is like the way we've built a business, I found a bag of 15 socks that go on a
golf club, right? Is that what they're called? Socks?
I guess a golf club sock.
Cover?
I bought the whole thing for $5. They'll probably sell for $10 to $15 each. So that would be a profit of, $150 plus if they all sell. I mean, that's like our everyday kind of bread and butter thing. But we got to sell 15 individual items, at $10 a pop. It's just
it's longer.
It really is that's why so few people do this on a regular basis, because you really have to have that commitment to it.
You have to do the work.
And so those are two good examples of how to run a business, and we're not sure exactly
what's right. I mean, I think there's that constant fear or questioning of, am I doing this right or am I doing this wrong? I mean, even though
I don't think it's about right or wrong. It's about what do we want to do, and is it possible, again, to sell only higher priced items without having to spend huge amounts of money, like giant amounts of money. Okay, customer issues.
This one kind of sucks.
It was a good week, but it's a good example of a buyer that's a little bit obnoxious. They make an offer on a necklace that we have, and we accept the offer. We're like, great, we like that price. It's no problem. He almost immediately emails us and says, can I just pay for this in a month?
Yeah.
And
I'm just
we're basically like, nope.
I just said no. Yep. I was like, I expect payment within 48 hours. And then I just open an unpaid item case, because you're like, why should I wait a month for you to...
So it's not a big deal. I don't even think about it. We just mention it because I'm sure other people have the same issue. It's just like, it's just a strange thing. Like, we will have people that will write us before they try and buy an item.
Right.
Or make an offer. And they're like, I want this. I'm going to offer you X amount of dollars, but I don't get paid for this date. Is that okay? And normally it's like a week away, 10 days. I'm like, just do it. It's no problem. But, a month, it's kind of like, that's...
Well, and also he or she didn't ask beforehand. So you're like, I already accepted thinking you would pay for this right now and I'd ship it out.
And the problem is there isn't even a guarantee that they will pay in a month. We could wait.
I'm sitting on this for
that whole month until December 15th.
Yeah.
And then he or she decides, I'm not going to pay, or we just don't ever hear from them again.
Yeah.
And then we have this item that could have sold during the holidays.
Exactly.
So, just a wacky and weird people. All right, things we learned in the forum. Someone asked a good question, and it was specifically Sonia. She asked, if you give them a partial refund, do you get a partial final value fee?
Right.
From eBay.
So this is the answer.
From PayPal.
Right, this is the answer. If you directly refund someone through PayPal, say something broke, and you're like, here's $10 back, through PayPal only. They didn't open a case, they just asked about it.
And you're just emailing them back and forth.
Right, you're messaging them back and forth. You will get money back from PayPal, your PayPal fees, through that partial refund, but you will not get anything back on final value, because it's essentially not through eBay. So the only way to get some of your final value fees back is if they said, they opened a case, hey, this thing broke, can I, you sent me 4 mugs, one of them broke, can you send me $10 for one of the mugs, or whatever, through the eBay case. And you do partial refund through an eBay case. That's the only way that I know of that you would get a final value fee back, unless you call eBay for a partial final value fee back, which seems a little bit crazy.
Especially if it's on a $30 item, and if you give them a $10 partial refund, and then it's what, 10% of that is
I don't even cents, I mean so the a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, I sent someone 5 mugs and one of them broke, and she had opened a case and sent photos, and I was like, great, I'll pay you for the one that broke through partial refund. And so I'm pretty sure I got partial refund for my final value fee, but honestly I'd have to look it up in my invoice to tell you if that happened, but I'm assuming that did happen.
Okay, another thing we learned in the forum that really isn't about eBay, but in the forums, we also just like to talk about an actual life of a scavenger. How do you quit your job and just sell on eBay and not die, not go bankrupt, not like get thrown in jail, all the fears that people have when they're, wanting to go independent, break off from being a wage slave.
Yeah.
And one thing we all started talking about was cooking at home.
Yes.
And that is, if you can save money by not eating out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge savings of money.
It's huge.
I mean, people that work, and I remember when I just had a regular job.
Yep.
I mean, I'm a pretty extreme person, so I didn't eat out that much, but I definitely spent more of my money, like, buying takeout at a lunchtime, or
going to the diner down the street.
Yeah, or after a work is done, just like wanting to just go, to go to a diner and just eat some food,
Look, the other day I had a meeting in town, and I didn't have time to eat breakfast because it was early. By the time I got out of the meeting, I was like, I'm starving. I have to eat right now. Like,
and we go eat. It's just like a cheap little diner.
Cheap diner. I had eggs and whatever.
And some coffee. And it's, after tip and all that, it's like almost $30.
Almost $30. And, at that moment, I was like, we have a full day ahead of us. I need to eat now so I can keep going. But if I had, like, whisked home or brought something with me, we would have saved all that money.
And then, compound that if you have a big family.
Right. It's not just two of you.
Eating out is huge.
Very
even
expensive.
like ordering pizzas. So anyway, we were all talking about basically it's meal prep. And if you Google it, it's kind of like a thing right now.
A little trend.
Where people are into it's meal.
Yeah. So what you did was you actually bought these little, like, cafeteria lunch bento. They're like bento boxes, basically,
right.
Where you have like the main thing and then two little sides.
Well, basically, I'm making like a little airplane meal.
Yeah, kind of, but better.
And I'll make like a bunch of chicken and then a bunch of cooked kale and a bunch of sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
And then I put them in their little parts so they don't touch. They have covers on them. I put them in the fridge. So then when I'm hungry, I just grab it's one of those and I'm ready to go. Or it's also helpful, like when we went to the auction.
Yep.
We each had a little airplane meal.
Yep.
And we sat on the back of the truck
and
during a break.
Yeah.
And
which was great because when we go to an auction, in the middle of the day, you're like, number one, you're hungry and you're like, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I don't want to do this anymore. Then you're either having to leave and go get lunch and spend money at Chipotle or wherever, which is delicious. Or you have your little meal that you made, which is equally as delicious. And you're like, oh, I'm ready to go. Like, we don't have to spend the money and, make the time to go get it.
And people with bigger families are probably super smart about this who are scavengers. I mean, they'll just cook like big pots of
stew or lasagna,
whatever, and then they freeze it, and so they can pop it out and then eat it, and then that's. I mean, I feel like if we have a freezer full of stuff. I bet if we had a bigger family,
probably have a few freezers.
Have two of them.
We used to have two actually, but it was the second one was taking up so much room. I was like,
it was more
this
food than we needed to
it's like,
keep.
We actually sold, it's great. It was a stand-up freezer. Not a stand-up, it was a whatever. It was one of those freezers. It was a small one. And
a chest freezer.
A chest freezer, that's what it's called. We bought it for $80. We used it for like 7 years. And then I sold it for $80.
Yeah.
It was great.
And I am not like a fancy cook. I'm not a chef. Like I'm not an Iron Chef.
An Iron Chef, yeah.
But I feel like the stuff I cook is good, right? Like, I think it's cook 80% of our meals.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good, but it's super simple stuff. Like, I find it's fresh ingredients.
Yeah.
Although I do cook a lot of it's frozen
stuff, yeah.
A meat, but that's just because that's just how it is.
The cheapest stuff.
But, fresh vegetables. And then it's like salt and pepper, and that's it.
And like olive oil.
Yeah, like it's not like cooking isn't complicated.
Well, also we have an Instant Pot. So the thing about the Instant Pot, which is kind of crazy, is it's so fast that you're basically like, here's a whole chicken.
Right.
I put salt and pepper on it.
And anyone that doesn't know, it's an Instant Pot. It's just a pressure cooker.
It's a pressure cooker.
Old-fashioned pressure cooker. They just slapped a computer on it.
Yeah.
A little small computer. So it's really easy to...
Yeah.
It's programmed, and it's not all the big hardware that
Yeah.
used to come.
So
with
the
it.
other day you threw a whole chicken in. You put it on high pressure at like 20. How long was that?
I forgot.
25
Half an
minutes.
hour or
Half an hour.
something.
The whole thing's done. It tastes delicious. It lasts for like
And these days
2
too,
weeks.
this is a whole thing. Like this whole subculture of meal is prepping and cooking. It's like all the homeschool moms. Everyone has a lifestyle blog now. I just simply Google Instant Pot and whatever ingredients I happen to have. Ketchup, pork, onions, and then there's just a million recipes. And when I mean a recipe, it's just like put all the stuff in the pot and put it at this
at 25 minutes,
and that's
high
it.
pressure.
Like it's good to go. So it's great. And then one of our favorite things, we love to make is homemade pizza. Like that's the easiest thing to make.
Look, one of the reasons we make homemade pizza and not like frozen pizza is because we do right now eat a low carb diet. So you kind of have to make your own crust. So I make a low carb crust with coconut flour and eggs and like cheese, and it's freaking delicious. It's so good.
And and
like I miss pizza,
Right. And we're all about like it's garbage meals. I know people don't like that, but that's really
Jay's
it's just
favorite
like
term.
open up the fridge.
What do you have?
What's in there? We have half a thing of cabbage, some onions.
I don't put cabbage on a pizza,
right? But I'll cook that in something else.
Right. I use
and
cabbage
then
a lot.
we just cook that, and it's always good. All right.
Yeah, so it's cheap, it's easy, it's better for you, all that stuff.
Okay, and one other thing that we'll talk about before we start taking calls. So last week, someone had called in about their snowbird. They go down to probably Florida in the winter time. So how do they turn their store off and start a new store?
Without stuff going inactive.
How do they
and
bring their
deleted?
stuff? How do you keep an eBay store up? When you're living in two different places.
Yeah.
So we got an email from Karen and Keith, and this is what they said.
Okay. eBay has an option under site preferences, selling preferences, sell your item. Good luck finding that. But it's called use the out of stock option. And if you turn it on when your listing goes to quantity of 0, the listing remains active, but it's hidden from search until the quantity is increased. If listings are good until canceled, they will continue to relist while hidden. You're still paying for that. We left all of our thrifted items at home and bulk edited to quantity 0. When we returned, we bulk edited back to quantity of 1. And then everything starts to sell again.
Right. And then they just mentioned and also their strategy is they have a mix of like the vintage stuff like we all sell, but they also sell wholesale items as well.
Okay.
And those wholesale items they'll pack up into their car and take down to Florida, and they'll continue to sell those.
So with that being said, if you have certain things that are more than quantity of 1, you have to be careful because you have to make sure you get your quantity back to the proper number again. You can't just be like, and quantity 1, even though you have 10 of those, And
then they also said that when they're in their, I'm going to assume it's Florida, but I don't know. But when they're in their winter home, they're also scavenging and buying stuff and listing that.
Right.
And then when they're ready to go back to their main home, they'll either pack up the stuff that they can take in their vehicle, and anything that doesn't fit, they just redonate. And they said that they make enough. I guess they don't actually have a second home. They have an Airbnb
that
they rent.
Smart.
And they say they always sell enough to pay for the rent in this place. And that's cool.
Yeah, that's great.
I love that. I mean, and I think that's a good example with eBay. It's flexible enough where you can kind of hack it to do what you want it to do. And you just have to think it's in a smart way about how to handle all of its stuff.
Right. So that was actually a really cool tip of setting quantity to 0. So your stuff is still active.
Yeah, out of stock.
Yeah. So, you can be like, I have 0 of these.
So Google eBay out of stock option, and I'm sure that there will be a tutorial of how to do that.
Yes. Okay, let's answer voicemail questions and comments that people have sent in, you can always call us at 540-407-8486. You have 3 minutes to leave a message. Or some people have been emailing us some audio, one of which you heard last week, so that they don't have a time limit, which is good and bad.
Hey, Jay and Ryan. Just calling to give you a little tale from my eBay crypt. Hope you enjoy it. Basically, I sold an item to someone who claimed it was not as described. I asked them for photos, and I was provided with photos of an item that was definitely not what I had sent them. So I'm like, okay, great. I call up eBay, explain what's going on. They say you have to wait 3 days. I wait 3 days, call back, get some more photos from the buyer. So it's definitely confirmed that the item is not what I sent them. It's a different item. At least that's my position. eBay agrees with me. So yay, right? They close the case. I don't need to accept a refund. The item that the buyer provided violates the money back guarantee because it's a different item. I get to keep the funds. We're done, right? No. So I'm patiently awaiting, that dreaded negative feedback. And the key here is that I asked the rep on the phone when I closed the case, if I get a negative, can I remove it? They said, yes, the case is closed in your favor. You can remove it. So I'm like, all right, no problem here. Waiting. There's the negative. I call to get it removed. The automated system surprises me and tells me that the case was not closed in my favor. So I'm like, great. Wait for a rep. They explained to me that the buyer appealed the case, got a full refund from eBay. So now they have their funds back. They get to keep the item, but I still have my funds. So eBay paid out of pocket. And now we're at an interesting place where the buyer has somehow won the case. It was closed in their favor as it was described to me, so they could leave whatever feedback they wanted. And I told them, that's not what was described to me on the phone earlier. Like, that's not how I was told the appeals process would work. And this is where I'm kind of looking for some of your guys' input as to what I could have done better. But of course, it doesn't end here. I do something I never do, which is ask to speak to their supervisor. Wait a bit. There's going to be a long wait, so they call me back, 7 p.m. on a Friday. A call from, Utah, I guess it's a separate center. They say they'll remove the feedback. Wow, a 3-minute call. They solved my problem. I was on the phone for probably an hour sorting this out previously. But they don't do it. So I call back on Monday, explain the whole thing again, have to go through all the same steps, another hour or two. By the end of this, I was on the phone with them for 3 hours, which is insane. By the end, they finally escalate it and agree to honor the initial claim that they would remove the feedback if it was negative. So good things come to those who wait, but it took 3 hours of calling back, getting 2 different supervisors on the phone, finally convincing them to remove it. So thanks for listening, and I hope this story helps someone else.
So number one, because I'm going to let you kind of answer this since you're the kind of phone wrangler with eBay. This is the kind of logical, rational, honest person on eBay that eBay should be fighting to keep.
As a seller.
Yeah. And these kind of things, just you putting these hurdles in smart people's way. And this is what, hurts you.
It's unfortunate. My theory here is that you did not talk to Anchor support, because Anchor support is awesome, and I feel like they would have solved this.
Well, Anchor support is that a Utah headquarters.
It is in Utah, yeah.
Eventually talked to that fixes problem in 3
minutes.
Yeah. Those are the people that are empowered. They know what the rules are, and it seems like their whole goal is just to solve problems and make it better.
Right, and They know that your time is valuable. That's what it feels like. And it's unfortunate that you had to, be on the phone with them for that long. And I said it before. If eBay wants to be a superior company to all others, they have to have the Utah support be the overall support for everyone. They need to step it up and have those people who know the rules and know how to fix problems be the call center for everyone.
But, I I don't think it's just about eBay. It seems like this is true for a lot of large corporations. You'll talk to one person, they'll say they're going to do something, and then they don't, and then you call back, and it's like you start all over again. I think it's very weird they don't have like a record of,
sometimes they do, or they say they do.
Where they're like, oh, so the last person you talked to said they were going to do X, so I'm actually going to do X for you. Sorry that didn't happen, instead of having to start all over again.
Right.
I don't know why that doesn't happen. But number two, I will say in eBay's favor, it has also happened to us where their answer, it will be like, well, look, we're going to give the buyer a refund. We're going to give you all the money back, and we're going to eat the cost.
Right.
And that's happened to us, and that's actually really cool.
Right. So, but the issue with that is, and while it is cool, the buyer believes they did nothing wrong. And they got their money back, so they're going to, the next time, also send back the wrong item.
Yeah, okay.
That's my problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where it's getting into, like, I want justice. It's like, you know what? At the end of the day, we're a business. If eBay's willing to make us whole, then that's cool. I mean, that's really all I care about in the end.
Okay.
Versus all the stories and what we experienced, like on Amazon, where they would send us messages that would basically say,
yeah, you lost money,
you have to eat it, and the only way we can make you feel better is that you'll just sell a lot on our platform. And so that's just the deal with being a person that sells on Amazon, is that you just have to eat costs that might seem unfair.
Right.
And that's just their answer. And in some ways, it's respect that, because they're just laying out the rules, just like, you got to eat it.
This is it, yeah.
But on eBay, they're willing to lose some cash,
Yeah.
Hey, Jay and Ryan, this is Stan from Alabama. Love your show. Have a question about a term you use called bulk editing. I don't have a store, but have about 200 items up, and when I first started selling on eBay, I realized that I could go to Seller Hub, active listings, select a bunch of items, and bulk edit them, do things with them, right? So now I have found File Exchange, where I can use an Excel spreadsheet. And, oh, by the way, I'm at peace with being a geek and an Excel geek. But nevertheless, my question is, when you say bulk edit, are you talking about the way that I first explained, or by File Exchange, or is there a third way because you have a store? Thanks again. Love your show. Have a great day.
Yeah, when I say bulk edit, I am speaking about doing it online through the Seller Hub. You can, like you said, bulk edit using an Excel spreadsheet, and you re-upload it and make the changes on the spreadsheet, and it changes it. Because basically what you're doing on eBay through what I call the bulk editor, I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, you're changing their internal spreadsheet. But you can do it offline, like you said, through File Exchange, which I've never done. I don't know how to do it. And I'm not interested in doing it that way.
It's just real quick, I think they ended File Exchange.
Oh, really?
Too. I think I remember someone talking about that.
Yeah, so when I say bulk edit, I'm doing it online through eBay, but there are...
And that's only because we have a store subscription?
No, he said he could do it without a store.
Cool.
You just go to your active items.
And then some people, they pay those developers where they get a piece of software or something, a service where they... manage,
Wonderlister?
Like Wonderlister or 6-Bit or these other ones, Blackthorn, where, they pay for an offline database, so then they just sync it to eBay. And, honestly, we've never really had a need to do that.
I just don't...
I think it's interesting, and if it was cheap or free, I would do it, but I'm just I don't have to pay extra.
I'm too cheap.
Hey, G and Ryan and fellow Scavengers, I thought I'd call in and pass on some information I read today. There's a news article about Amazon and collecting sales tax for transactions. And I know your blog's not necessarily about Amazon, but it impacts eBay as well. But Amazon is starting a new service called Marketplace Tax Collection. and this service will automatically calculate, collect, and remit sales tax for third-party merchants selling products to customers in certain states. There's a lot of detail there. I won't go into all that, but the important thing here is that Amazon is doing this transparently to the seller. So they've taken that burden or responsibility on, and it sounds like it will be pretty seamless for sellers. Hopefully eBay will provide the same service. Maybe we'll end up paying a higher fee of some kind, but in terms of having to deal with that hassle, it sounds like it might be pretty seamless. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've been talking about for a long time. Like, those companies have to deal with it themselves, you know? That it's like, whatever state they're selling to, I'll have to look up how they're doing it.
I can talk about this a bit more. So, we don't sell on Amazon anymore. It wasn't fun for us. But I read in a similar kind of article where it was more about, I guess, states, it's always been a threat where states are like, we want our money, like we want to tax all this stuff. And then the concern is like, well, I'm just a guy who's selling items on Amazon, and now I have 50 different states I have to sell. How do I keep track of that? I mean, it's just like a whole thing. Yeah. But states are like, we need money,
Right.
Like
we are owed money on these.
So supposedly some states are going to start coming after people that sell and are going to do that. And yeah, I guess the smart thing would be is for Amazon to have some kind of a service where they're just figuring all that stuff out, and they send you a bill every month of like what taxes you got to pay, and you give it to Amazon, and then Amazon gives it out to the 50 states.
Or is Amazon taking the money and dealing with it themselves? Like, why? It's like they're billing the customer directly, taking that money, and then re-sending that out to the states. Like, you don't even see it.
Yeah.
But, is that how it's going to work?
I just think that's kind of like where we're at right now. I mean, I don't know. They have to figure that stuff out.
Okay, that is it for the podcast this week. You can check out the blog at scavengerlife.com for the links we discussed and to join the conversation on the forum. You can call and leave a question or a comment on our voicemail line. The phone number is 540-407-8486. We post an episode every Monday morning. On Wednesday, we post a What Sells video to show what we sold and how much we sold it for, currently being brought to you by Stephen Schultz. You can subscribe to us through iTunes or YouTube so you always get the latest episode. And we are ending this podcast in 3, 2, 1.
One.
Bye.